What's up fam, it's your host and your boy Memnon. Your favorite Alpha streamer is back with another 60 installment within Memnon Gaming itself. And today we're gonna check the Elder Scrolls Online, one of the most famous build that I've constructed within the Elder Scrolls Online, the Dragonknight build. This build is truly has been widely and nicely received the first time I dropped it within my channel, so I thank you so much for the love and support, and of course I listen for your comments, your feedback and your positive and the negative ones, so I try to improve it with an updated build that I'm showcasing you right now. This build is constructed himself to do everything for overland gameplay and for dungeon content with zero problem all the way to arenas. This build is constructed for you to really to shine yourself in all these contents, and you do actually for 90% of the time with zero problem. But of course, this build series I like to call will be shown in two parts. The first part, this part, is be for you to learn how to play with a MacDK, how you sustain yourself, how you can survive yourself with a MacDK zero problem. The second part is all going to be about DPS trials and DPS parsing. But if you like this content, don't forget to press a like, you comment it below, and you support your home team. Let's check this build, how it's constructed himself from the ground up, and let me know what you think about it afterwards, shall we? What's up fam, welcome back to the channel. Once again, I'm your host Memnon, thank you for being here. Before we proceed and check taking a closer look within the MacDK build, what I call the Dragonknight build. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. And of course, welcome every single one of you to my beautiful, humble estate and Elder Scrolls Online and elsewhere. So thank you for being here, my fellow guests. Now let's see what this build is actually about, shall we? Now, of course, we're putting 46 points into Magicka because we are a Magicka based character, so we're gonna try to put at least take as much as we can from DPS output within a Magicka pool. So we're putting all our points into Magicka so we can truly benefit all everything that has to do with magic with this build itself. And that gives us an overall stat for Magicka 35,110, health recovery, a health itself 18,219, stamina 12,240 for max stats. A form of recovery for the respective pool that we have there, max Magicka recovery is 1,818. That's a staggering number for having a MacDK to have such a high Magicka recovery. 399 is a solid number to have a form of health recovery as well, and a stamina recovery of 604, even though it's not really that important because we are not a stamina based build, nor we are going for a hybrid build. It is pure DPS and a Magicka based class that we're going for. In form of spell damage we got 3,409, spell critic 70%, 0.1 to 70%, and spell penetration 7,247. All the rest of the stats is really not important for us because it's based on stamina. Stamina is based on melee builds playstyles. But before we proceed any further, I want just to give you a little tip, a little extra feedback and information on how DPS actually is counted within the Elder Scrolls Online. For those who don't know, actually DPS is counted in a form of cumulative wave factor of calculating how your DPS output of your character is going to be. What I'm trying to mean with that, for example, you have your max Magicka of 35,110, your spell damage, your spell critical, and spell penetration. These four factors will work together in a cumulative way, and that will be calculated how much your DPS output eventually is going to be. Your max Magicka has an adjustable factor in it. Spell damage is also an adjustable factor in it. Spell critical and spell penetration. Spell critical is what it says itself. The amount of chances you have actually for doing certain form of critical damage with that certain form of ability. For example, if you have an ability that does 20k and its max cap is 29k, I have 70% the chance to hit 29k DPS with that ability. Spell penetration, what spell penetration, those who don't know actually, is the strength that you have to breach the armor shield, matter of speaking, of your NPC of the character you're trying to defeat. So in the Elder Scrolls Online actually, you need around 18,000 spell penetration for you to be able to do solid DPS. Um, 18,000 is a number you never reach by yourself, at least not even close to it. Maybe 14,000 you can reach with your buff and the debuff that you have. How can you reach then 18,000? That's from the your group content you have. What I mean by that is the buffs that you received or the debuffs that you receive from the tank. Every single time a tank taunts something, there's a debuff that it gives. The buffs that you receive from a healer within your party works as a cumulative factor for overall DPS output you're gonna do. And of course, the ability that you use as yourself, as a DPS class, you have certain abilities in your DPS class. We as well, I'm gonna showcase you a skill factor as well that works as a form of a debuff mechanic against the NPCs itself. And that together, that makes sure that you manage to you become close to a penetration cap of 18,000. That's why the DPS output and trials is so high actually. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit understandable. You understand that all these factors that work together in a cumulative way and that decide actually how much your DPS output is. So do not focus on one stat alone. Do not focus, oh I want a high spell damage, I have only for example 35 spell crit. You're never gonna reach the 80k DPS passing, no. You need to work together and a cumulative rate need to be balanced together. And all together you will manage to reach your maximum output in form of DPS. Okay. For buff food that we use the Ghastly Eyeball. It gives us the best stats for a Magicka. Give us 4,199 max Magicka and max recovery 419. We have enough health in this patch, and previous patch I wasn't even lower, so I don't need anything that is buff food that's related to giving me more health. What I want is pure gas, pure tank, and pure DPS with my builds, and because I can survive with zero problem with my builds within Elder Scrolls Online with this character. I do every single content from 18,000 of zero problem, and I'm gonna teach you how I do it as well. I'm using the Thief Monderstone form of DPS output. I found the Thief Monderstone still the best option for Magicka Decay classes. Gives you weapon and spell critical 2176. The other buff food that I use, buff drink, is Essence Spell Power. What is Essential Spell Power? What it does for me actually? It gives me Spell Prophecy. It gives me Major Sorcery, increase me my spell damage for 20% for 74 seconds at a time. It gives you Major Prophecy and grants me 2629 spell critical for 74 seconds as well. So I only use this buff drink and only in hardest content. So that means veteran hard mode group content, or just trials itself. And for the rest, I only use Essences of Magic for overland gameplay, trials, overland gameplay, arena fights, and just name it. I only use Essence of Magic if I need it, because I literally don't need it actually with my build. As you saw in the first intro playthrough, simply don't need it. Okay. A form of the gear sets that I use, the goodies now, and the most valuable part. Because we're going for we are Mag Decay, I like to work in form of static as well, in form of RPG element as well. I want to go and with the gear sets that represents the magical damage output that a Dragonknight, a Dragon Hunter is supposed to be. By the start of this game, actually the Burning Spellweaver in form of magical output, really for me personally, brings that aesthetic truly in the playing field in form of an RPG element in the game itself. But the set itself is very OP. It's a very strong set since the beginning of the game. So I'm using 2 daggers out of it, Nerdhunt and Precise, with flame damage enchantments and a poison damage enchantments. And then the passive of my skill line will be very clear why I'm using these enchantments and other enchantments and any other enchantments. And the second reason why I'm using Precise over Charged. Charged is a very small DPS difference between Precise and Charge from my perspective, that I find it very unnecessary to transmute it to Charged. So I'm using Precise just to increase my critical damage and my critical chance even higher. That's why I'm reaching the 70% form of critical chance, because I'm using 2 daggers and one of them is already precise and give me even an extra 3.6% weapon and spell critic thanks to this precise trait that I'm using. For the set itself, what does the set do for me? Now, the set gives me 1071 Magicka, 126 spell damage, another spell critical of 641. And the goody part, the beautiful part about this set, when you deal damage with a flame damage ability, you apply a burning status effect. That increases your spell damage for 487 spell damage for 8 seconds long, and it can occur only once every 12 seconds. So we are a magic based class, we're doing a lot of flame damage. Automatically we're gonna do a lot of burning status effect, and it means this set always gonna proc for us. But this set we make sure we always front bar it. We make sure we have it on our jewelry and our weapons. It's not necessary to put this burning spell weaver on your body, because the moment you proc it, it will proc itself in your back bar. Sets like Soraya and Burning Spellweaver, you always make sure that you front bar it and you don't put that in your body pieces. There are other sets that we can benefit that can make sure that you have the necessary buff, a front bar and your back bar, then we use then at the body pieces. But of course, if you don't have all the sets, for example, you're missing one ring or one amulet, it's not a problem if, for example, you're putting the belt a burning spell weaver. It really is not a problem. But if you can farm, of course, a full set and front bar equipment, do it. You're not gonna. It's really gonna benefit you in the long run in form of DPS output with this build. And your back bar, we're using the Maelstrom Inferno Staff. We can use the perfected version as well. The only difference the perfected and the normal one is the increase of spell penetration that you have on the perfected one. For the both weapons, we have an increase of weapon damage enchantment we use that gives us 452 for 5 seconds, and the back bar, it's a hands off all over the board our spell power damage of all our back bar abilities. And of course we have infused straight hit, increase your weapon enchantment another 30%, really making sure that we are the best form of DPS output. The difference between Inferno and Lightning is only Inferno is a single target combats, Lightning is AoE based. Form of body pieces. Body pieces we're using monster sets in form of Lazan. They give us spell critic, and when you're doing a light or a heavy attack, you have 30% chance to create a beam of fire that connects itself to your target for a distance of 8 meters. That target deals 1286 flame damage for every second for 6 seconds long. Every second the damage increased by 100%, it stacks himself up, and it can occur every 18 seconds, and it scales himself while you higher of your weaponized spell damage. This is one of the best sets, actually monster sets we have in form of mag decays. Well, because the additional thing is a form of aesthetic as well, because we're doing the flame damage. We start to keep ourselves in the same aesthetic playfield, doing a lot of flame damage output because we are a Dragonknight. We're using the Mother Sour on our body pieces. Mother Sour, what's gonna bring it for us is gonna bring Max Magicka, 1083, spell penetration, spell critic, and additional 5 pieces of another 1510 spell critic. So that increased my spell critic all over the roof. And I'm still using the same sets actually that I was using the previous patch or 2 patches ago when I first released the Dragonknight build. But this today is still doing a lot of damage, and I'm still surviving with 0 problem within this game. And of course, I'm putting all the jewelry in bloodthirsty, as you can see. Okay. For skill sets, the skill sets now. This is the most important thing. I'll try to explain this as within my best of my abilities. The first ability that we use is a bread and butter form of a DPS output and a DPS enhancements tool, you could say. Why I'm saying that, the Molten Whip, what it does actually, it gives you not only a staggering ability of 9018 flame damage, immobilize your targets. When your target is off balanced, its enemy is immobilized or stunned, you can off balance them. Now that's not only the same reason why we're using this, man. When you use slotted, whenever you have an active different ardent flame ability, you gain a stack of sitting fury, which increases the damage of your molten whip. So every single molten whip for 33%, of course, for 75 spell damage for every single time for 5 second long. I can stack himself 3 times. 3 times 75 spell damage you can stack for 5 seconds long. For every single time you're using an ardent flame ability. So all these abilities here, so long you have the molten whip bar at your front bar or any bar that you use, any ardent flame ability that you're using is stacking himself with your molten whip. Is calculated as a stack for your molten whip. So in the third class with your molten whip, you can deal even a higher DPS output. And it's all been enhanced. That means all of this is going to be enhanced as well because you have the molten whip equipped as well in your front bar. The second ability we're using is your burning ember. Your burning ember, what it does in first of all an single target ability, 4500 flame damage, and then deal an additional 16,086 flame damage over 14 seconds. The nicest thing about this ability, actually, when you deal damage, it heals you for 75% of the damage has been caused. So what it does, actually, every single time you come to an enemy, you always make sure you have this ability on. So it's gonna tick himself for the duration of the time it needs to be ticked. At the end of the tick is gonna give you 75% of the healing down of the damage he has caused. This is literally your oh shit button, because you can spam this even. You can literally spam this. If you find yourself in a situation that you're missing health and you dealt with this to multiple NPCs and you reapply that the same NPC you dealt before, you're gonna get 70% health back from the damage that has been caused because of this weapon. That is literally an insane ability that you have in your toolkit. It really helps you in a Dragonknight, a form of survivability in general. We're using the third ability is the Engulfing Flame. The Engulfing Flame is a debuff that we have. So what it does actually for us, it gives us a frontal damage attack for 8,449 flame damage. An additional 16,023 flame damage for 15 seconds. Now the nicest thing about this, every enemy who's caught with a molten flame ability, his offensive stat, the damage he can take is increased by 10%. So we always make sure that we have this ability activated. We can use it for single targets, or you can use it in the form of a cone. You can use it as an area effect. So every single person has been caught in it, he will receive 10% more damage. And the last ability we're using in the form of Ardent Flame ability, that's a bread and butter and form of DPS output as well, but in range. This ability gives us the option to fight in range. As you see in my first preview and the boss, and in my last preview after this explanation of everything, I'm going to showcase you this again, how viable that this ability actually is. I'm using this in range, so I don't need to be in front of my targets every single time. This ability really makes sure I can do a DPS at a distance. Yes, it is a tank ability, but because it's an Ardent Flame ability and I have a multi-whip, it's gonna be enhanced every single time I use it, every third time I use it. So there's also an ability that helps me in form of movability. Every small adds around me, I can pull it around me and just melt them very fast. And the third thing about this ability that's so nice is that if I cannot pull an enemy, that's 100% all the bosses. That means I'm getting a Magicka restore back for 100% back. So I can do damage, I can do my rotation, I can do everything I do. Then I can start spamming this. I can literally refill my health back to 100%, as close to 100%, while doing a lot of damage. And that means I don't have to be literally in front of the boss. I can literally be in a distance. I can literally be in a distance and focus myself on the mechanics and all other stuff without worrying myself about anything else. So yeah, I'm doing a solid number of 17,000. weapon damage. Okay. Another ability I use in my front bar, you can find yourself in the mage's ability. That's Analytes. Analytes as ability, there's only a flex spot that we use. The only reason we're using this ability is for the Mass Magicka increase of 5%, and Major Prophecy that you receive just for making sure that these are your front bar. So we have another increase of spell critical for 2629. The last ability we use in the Mage's Guild ability is a Shooting Star. There's also another flex ability that we're using. We do use it from time to time, this ultimate, but we have another ultimate, and Dragonknight is much more valuable for us in form of sustain, DPS output, and just generally, yeah, one of the best in the game. So we literally don't use this much as good as at all. So this is more a form of a flex button, but what it's gonna do, if you do use it, it will give you 18,510 flame damage to all the enemies in the area. It will knock them and stun them for 2 seconds. After impact, an enemies in the target area takes 5,278 flame damage every second for 30 seconds. Now, the reason I call these two ability flex spots is because of the passive that the Mage's Guild actually has. The most important one is the Magicka controller we have. Increases your Mass Magicka and Magicka recovery for 2% for all the Mage's ability you have slotted. That's 4% extra Mass Magicka we have. Like I told you, Max Magicka, the higher Max Magicka, the higher DPS output you're gonna get from that pool as well. So the more Max Magicka you're gonna have, the more DPS output you're gonna be calculated in the form of the Elder Scrolls Online. So we're making sure that we always increase the Max Magicka as high as possible, truly to benefit in the calculation of how Elder Scrolls Online works in form of DPS output. The rest of these abilities we truly don't need it because we don't actively use Mage's ability, except this scaled rooms. We do use this ability from time to time, most importantly in form of DPS bossing. Then these other abilities like the might of the guild becomes very important, because if you use a major skill ability, increases your damage of your light and heavy attack by 40% for 3 seconds long. So in form of DPS output, light attack is literally like almost like 30% of your DPS output is your light attacks. So you always make sure that if you're doing light and an ability, always making sure you have a light attack between it, because then you can making profit of these passives as well. Naturally, this 40% is a lot of damage you receiving extra actually, just for using light and heavy attacks. In a back bar, the first ability in the back bar we use is the Mystic Orbs. The Mystic Orbs is a shooting orbs that you shoot in the distance, and it catch every single target in this area. It deals 1350 Magicka for every single second is activated near an enemy. The nicest thing about this ability is then when somebody activates the ability, it does 7085 Magicka, explode actually, and it's restored for 3960 Magicka and stamina for the ally who has activated this ability. How does it look like? It's like a shooting orbs, and most of the time you're gonna see it around. Flying ladder magic ability to use this. If you activate it, you get Magicka restored or stamina restored, depends on what is your highest stat. What that means, what is your class style that you play on. The other ability we use on the back bar is Walktrough. Walktrough, you can find himself in a fighter's build, a fighter's guild. That's the last ability of it. We're using what it does actually, it creates a bleed on the ground. It traps your enemy for 50 seconds long and does an additional bleed for 10 seconds to 5. But the nicest thing about this, most of the DPSs use this ability, even though it's a stamina based ability, it gives us minor force and increases your critical damage for 10%. So we always make sure that this ability is always procs himself first. This has to come up first, so we benefit first on all of the passive of this ability. That's the critical damage increase for 10%. So we always make sure that it comes down first. And of course, like all other abilities, we make sure that it ticks all the way down. Because when it ticks all the way down, it's gonna give you an additional 13,023 bleed damage over 18 seconds. So it's very important that you remember that. The other ability that we use can find himself on the Earthen Heart ability is Eruption. Eruption as an AoE based ability that has an additional moveset in decrease the movability of all the targets caught between it. It deals 1661 flame damage every single second and is activated and deals an immediate damage for 7335 flame damage immediately. How does it looks like? It looks like this in the ground. Now the nicest thing about this ability is it comes as a passive as well of the Earthen Hearts. So it is the ability that why we use this as well. When you cast an Earthen Heart ability, you and your group gain mana brutality for 20 seconds, increase your weapon damage for 10%. So that's why we also use this on a back bar as well. It increases your weapon damage across the board and your back bar as well, and just in general. And it helps your group and your group as well. The other passive we don't use actually, because it's really now related for Magicka based or other playstyle that we do with this build. Increase the duration of your heart ability by 20%. It's nice to have, of course. When you cast an ultimate, you restore 46 stamina, Magicka, and etc. We don't use ultimate from this tool cage. We only use the Mighty Bless. It really benefits us, and that's it. Mighty Bless, and of course Eternal Mountain also benefits us, otherwise nothing in this tool cage. The other ability that we use in our back bar can find himself on the Destruction Staff. The Destruction Staff is the Wall of Elements. The Wall of Elements is an AoE based ability that deals 1225 Magicka damage for every single second it's activated. When it's finished activating, it deals an additional damage for 6971. So that's why it's very important. If it doesn't matter if you have a lightning staff or of an inferno staff, element of wall, you always make sure you let them finish completely, because you do not spam this. There's one ability, it's one of these many abilities you do not spam. As you saw, when it's finished, it deals an additional attack. When it's finished, then you of course between every single ability, so you do a lot of attack and you apply them again when it's finished. The other ability we use is the Flame of Oblivion and the back bar. We find ourselves in the Ardent Flame of Ardent Flames skill line. What it does actually, you create an orbs that floats around you and you can fire fireballs at 2 enemy at a time, dealing 8574 flame damage. Now while we slot it on a back bar, we don't slot for example another mage's ability for the give us Major Prophecy, because this ability always gonna provide us for Major Prophecy already and a back bar. While slotted you gain Major Prophecy and Major Salvo increases your spell and weapon damage by 2629 and an Alien Choir bar and a back bar. That's why we like to slot it in a back bar, so it really benefits our entire skill line in a back bar. That's why you don't use other abilities here. Okay. And of course the ultimate that we're using on the back bar is a Standard of Might. That is a bread and butter form of ultimate use, and this is really gonna make sure that we have a strong survivability in form of DPS output. So what this ability does, first of all, you create a battle standard on the ground. It's gonna deal 4580 flame damage for every single second for 20 seconds long that is activated. It's gonna do an additional ability. It's gonna boost the health and the speed of every single person in an area for 60% health and recovery health recovery he receive. Excuse me, my pardon. Standing in that area and increases your damage done and their damage taken for 50%. No, excuse me, I'm reading his book correctly. It increases my damage done and reduces your damage taken for 50% at a time. The nicest thing about this ability actually is that when you have this applied on the ground, it deals another synergy. So every single person who activates the synergy does an additional damage for 10,726 flame damage to all enemy caught in the area and immobilize them for 5 seconds. What we like to use this actually, because the moment we put this on the ground, it will restore our magical stamina or health full bar every single time we have this on the ground. Uh, it really helps us in form of survivability, because we can practice so many times, and it will recover our health very fast and our magical very fast if we're finding ourselves in a situation that we do need to recover quite fast again. This will make sure the moment you have this on the ground, your abilities comes back up. These are the form of the skill lines. Hopefully that's quite understandable why I use certain form of skill lines, with how I use it, how you saw in my playstyle. Now, there's a certain things actually that has been changed in the form of the new DLCs. How light armor actually works. We are going 7 light in this build. We're not using any form of medium armor. I'm not even bothered by speccing them even. So while we're using light armor, what light armor is gonna give us is gonna give us, of course, this reduced effectiveness of the snare every single time we have a light armor ability on. Increases our magical recovery. Increases our spell resistance for 726. We have 5082. Increases your weapon and spell critical for 219. 5538 spell critical. And of course, increases your physical and spell penetration by 939 for each piece of light armor worn. The only difference is that what a lot of people have been wondering if it's still going to be viable to use light armor, or if you have to switch to medium armor, and because of the passive that medium armor has, and it is agility. Agility increases your weapon and spell damage by every single medium armor that you wear. Like I told you, it's not only your spell damage that matters, that makes sure that you have the highest DPS output. It's the cumulative factor actually that makes everything that you have the highest DPS output. So that's why me personally, I think a lot of content creators agree with me. I will agree with me. I'll say like, it will not happen anytime soon that we will have to switch from light to medium armor. You can benefit from this tool cage if you're, for example, wearing one medium, so you get benefits from this passive. But is the difference, DPS difference, that high? No, it's really, it's like 1 or 2% different. It's really not higher. It's really not making a lot of difference. But they only put it the way they put it right now because it's more viable for hybrid builds right now. But meta builds, it's really not a lot of a change. The meta standard is still how it is today. Okay. Other things I recommend you to also to make sure you always have is the Undaunted skill line, because we are benefit from magical return, stamina return every single time we use a synergy, for example, or the armor sets that we are using. So make sure you have this always activated. A form of skill line where I'm using the High Elf. The High Elf, if it comes to DPS output, for me personally, the High Elf is the best class for Magicka based DPS. I know that Khajiit has been popularized for a lot of content creators out there, but I fully disagree with them. The High Elf is still one of the best, and the best in slot actually in form of DPS output, especially at a Magicka DK. What it gives you actually when you activate an ability, you restore 625 Magicka or stamina based on whatever it is the lowest at that pool gauge. When you're using an ability with a channel or a casting term, you take 5% less damage. For this form of survivability, this is really it's a really nice passive to have a form of a class. It only gives you not only magical return in form of sustain, and gives you receive less damage because you. Let's be honest, a lot of people, a lot of healers, a lot of tanks forget to do the job properly, and yeah, this really helps you in form of survivability, especially in a class like a Mag DK. You really need it. Period. It gives you an increase of Magicka again for 2000. That's crazy how much extra Magicka you're only getting from this class. 2000 is a lot of Magicka. That's why your Magicka pool is so high. And it increases our weapon and spell damage an additional 258. That's absolutely insane. That makes this class truly an across the board the best class to use for Magicka based classes. just for the stats that it has actually, from survivability, sustain, and DPS output, that is simply amazing. I love it, and I definitely recommend it for every single person out there. Form of alchemy and crafting, the things you need to have, of course, is medicinal use. When you use a potion, you have 30% longer effects, and of course, that's everything you need here, alchemy. And for provisions, what you need is gourmand et connoisseur, because that will enhance your food and your drink for 20 minutes long. So remember these two abilities, because a CP allocation that will become very, very popular. And that's it for a skill line that we use. But before we go on the CP allocation, I have to give you the additional tip. What we like to use as well in form of survivability is a Ring of Pale Order. The Ring of Pale Order is in one of those mythical items you need to find within the new DLCs that came out so recently. So 90% of the time, if we are playing by ourselves, we have the Ring of Pale Order activated ourselves. So when you have this ability activated, now of course we're gonna use a different setup. We're gonna have then. Okay, we're gonna have a different setup. So we're gonna have one Zan, just to have the critical application in our tool cage. We can always use the Slim Claw. I don't have it on this character, but you can use the Slim Claw. You can have a much higher critical spell critical from Slim Claw. And of course, you have Burning Spellweaver and Shoulder Pieces, and the rest all Mother Sorrow, and Jewelry Pieces, Burning Spellweaver as well. And this ability is gonna do every single time you're dealing damage, you restore 20% of the damage dealt back to health. You have to remember we already have an ability that deals damage and at the same time healing us at the end of its tick. Remember the ability I showcased to you. So if you have this ability as well, it heals you for the damage you do, and it heals you at the same time. You have two abilities that are constantly healing you and providing you with heal every single time you're doing damage. That is really one of the amazing sets, and I'm so grateful the content creators really providing us for this, because it truly helps you in another level in form of survivability and overland gameplay. You cannot even imagine. But the downside about this set, actually, you cannot heal by any other people than yourself. So if you're going in dungeons, you make sure you have your normal sets on, your normal gear sets, because the healer will not be able to heal you at all. Because you have the Ring of Pale Order activated. Now, and another thing I almost forgot how to tell you, I wanted to showcase to you. Remember, you have 478 spell damage, and our spell damage is right now 3,409 and 70% spell critical. Now we have our potions right here. We're gonna take one. You're gonna see our potion, make sure that we have 4,090 spell damage. Okay, that's not bad. Now, let's see what a Burning Spellweaver actually gonna do for us. When we have this activated, this Burning Spellweaver start kicking himself. It gives 5,719 spell damage itself, and it's activated himself. It's completely crazy. It's completely crazy, and it stays himself around 5,000. Over there, spell damage receive, and it goes for 8 seconds and can be activated for 12 seconds long. So that's the reason why me personally, I don't use a medium armor set, because I'm already receiving a lot of spell damage thanks to the sets that I already have. Of course, how it procs itself. That's it. Okay. Hopefully that's understandable. Hopefully that you see, approve something what I'm speaking of. CPU allocations. Now, the CPU allocation, the sets that the gear that we use actually enhance our DPS output. It's first of all Frightening Finesse. It gives us critical damage and critical healing down for 10%. We even did the aim. It increases our single target's ability. So every single target you have on a front bar, most of them are single targets, will be increased by the aim. Damager. Every dot that we have, it has been increased by Damager. And we are max decay, we're doing a shit ton of damage over time. apologies, a shit ton of damage we're doing. Dots Damager will make sure that all of this is being increased by another 10%. We use Master of Arm because we have doing a lot of AoE abilities and a backbar. Master of Arms will make sure that this has been no, excuse me, I'm not there. Master of Arm increases your damage done with direct damage per 2%, because we're having this activated. Of course, this we're not gonna use. Backstabber is only available for DPS passing, because I was DPS passing. I had used Backstabber on here. For critical damage for every single time you are flanking an enemy, so that every single time the boss turns itself, this ability it becomes active. So what we're gonna do, we like to use biting aura over everything else. What biting aura actually gonna do, biting aura is gonna provide us with yeah, okay. Biting aura is gonna provide us with another AoE based ability. It increases your every single AoE based ability across the board you use. So it's really a matter of preference what you have and over the playing field. If you prefer to have a direct damage ability, every single direct damage you have increased by 2%, or you rather have and all the AoE abilities you have increased by 2%. Now this one is I call them flexible, and we change them and according to the situation that we are in to Backstabber. Backstabber definitely use them for trials, this ability, because you're always facing the boss most of the time from behind in most of the trials, so then this becomes really viable form of DPS output as the Backstabber. Otherwise, it's a matter of preference and choice that you choose between Master of Arms. You want more direct damage increase or AoE increase. I like to use Master of Arms because it's more effective against my Molting Whip and my chain ability that I like to use. And of course, other passive I like to use, I like to increase my critical chance, of course, with precision. I have a 320 critical chance increase. Increase my Mode Magicka as well for 520. These yellow golden stars are passive. They're always there for you at all time. These blue ones here are slottables. They're only active when the moment you slot them and your slot bar you see there in the middle. Otherwise, it's not passive. Now, of course, and we have increased our physical penetration, increase our Magicka status effect. The chances we have to, for example, applying burning status effects, we increase this for 60%. Word Mage increases our magic ability for 100 weapon spell damage for every single weapon attack we doing for flame, frost, whatever. We always make sure we always have this as well active. For otherwise, that's it. What we use in form of champions points and the blue CPs and the red CPs. We're using, of course, Boundless Vitality, increase our health. We use armor, increase our survivability. Rejuvenation, we're using this for increasing our survivability and for sustain mostly. This makes sure that we have a better sustain. Thanks to this slottable CP. And another slottable CP we use have a form of sustain, help us every single time, siphoning spells. Every single time I'm killing an enemy, I'm restoring 300 Magicka back. This truly is insane. Because we're killing enemies so fast, I'm gonna keep having this procced around me very, very fast. The rest of the CP allocation is really a matter of preferences again. Increasing my health. It's a normal passive, is always active, by 560. I reduce my stealth if I'm doing certain missions. I reduce my roll. Increase my sprinting speed. For example, I'm farming. For example, all of this. It just increase my mobility. It's a matter of preference. My block mitigation. Yeah, it's a matter of preference. It's nothing special. They're actually gonna enhance your DPS, but it's just nice to have. because it helps you in form of all the things that you do for sneaking, to farming, just moving across the battlefield, from the trails as well. That can be very helpful as well. Just you move just faster. You can move away from mechanics from A to B. For example, in arenas fight, it can be very helpful if you can move very fast, move from A to B quite fast. And the green CP allocations, of course, the same thing. It's a matter of preferences that you have. The thing I can only say, you make sure you have, is the steadfast enchantments. It reduces your enchantments defection by 50% the chance, so it lasts longer. Rotation is very important to have because it increases your buff food for another 30 minutes. So that's very important because our buff food's length is much longer. It helps us in our wallet, could say. You don't have to eat so much because it lasts so long for us. And the rest of them is only a matter of preferences what you use. For example, this steady blessing again helps you in movability outside of the combat. For here is, for example, a form of it is literally for farming. If you're farming, if you have this ability on, you're gonna move much faster if you want to farm certain loots. And somebody is being annoying, make sure you have this on. Other abilities you may use them will help you move faster in the battlefields, and you're gonna start stealing those farming loots quite fast. And that makes it for our build showcase and overall explanation how this build actually works. And hopefully this was understandable, just in general understandable. If you have any other questions, just hit me on notifications down below. On the comments down below, excuse me, and definitely don't forget to press the like. You smash the like button, it really helps me, it helps my algorithm, of course, helps me. Your feedback really helps me grow as a content creator, and helps me grow as a gamer myself as well. So I say thank you very much for sticking around, and of course I will showcase you another boss battle across the board, so you have an overall feeling how this game works, and you have an overall understanding how this build actually is constructed, if you're still unconvinced how strong it actually is. So thank you very much, see you in a bit. Well, as you can see guys, I have zero problem myself sustaining and with this build actually. Doesn't matter how many mechanics has been throwing at me, not even once during the entire fight, and been under the zero sustain. So my sustain has always been around 25% and I have zero problem sustaining with this class. So that means you can truly sustain with a mag decay and doing a good amount of damage, a shit ton of damage I could even say, with zero problem. Doesn't matter how you interacted it, how we deal with it. And hopefully this video and this walkthrough and this playthrough and a guide here, it truly helps you and truly finding your way within the Elder Scrolls Online and truly enjoying this beautiful game that we all love as a beautiful community. So that means if you like this content, don't forget to press a like, you comment down below and subscribe yourself in the channel. Because part 2 for the trials will come with my channel, so I'll give you another explanation how everything works for the trials itself. So if you want to help me as a content creator and you want to help your home team as well, it will be so much appreciated by pressing a like, you subscribe yourself, you comment down below, and sharing this video into your heart contents. So thank you very much, see you all very soon on the next walkthrough, the next playthrough, and of course the next part 2 of the Elder Scrolls Online or any other game.